Hey everybody, I'm Count Jackula,
I'm the horror guru.
and we just saw The Strangers by
The Stranger.
The Stranger.
Not to be confused with The Strangers, which is a completely different movie.
Yeah.
Anyway.
This is The Stranger by Guillermo Amoedo.
I'm going to totally butcher that, so I'm not going to bother.
Okay. No problem.
Alrighty then. Guillermo apparently is one of Eli Roth's co-writers, and he wrote his last two movies, which we have yet to see.
Which most people have yet to see, actually.
The Green Inferno and Knock Knock. I'm looking forward to them. Haven't seen them, but apparently he co-wrote them, and this is his first directorial feature. As far as I'm aware, it's pretty solid directorial debut, I gotta say.
Yeah, it's really good.
I've seen some really bad first time pictures from even great filmmakers. I've seen bad first time pictures, but this is a pretty solid one. You can see how he can.
It's a really solid first outing. He establishes mood extremely quickly.
Absolutely.
He captures that feeling of being in like this kind of like awful small town where like everything's bad.
Mm-hmm.
Cops have a little too much power over people, and just things are awful, and just, people are like meth addicts, and
and everybody kind of knows each other a little bit.
Yeah, everyone kind of knows each other,
and everyone's kind of a little paranoid about one another. Basically, the plot of the movie is there is this guy, this stranger, who strolls into town. I believe he's been looking for his wife. Is what he's looking for?
Looking for his wife.
And he tracks her down to this house, and he goes and says, "Hey, does so and so live here?" I forget his wife's name.
I forget too. Most of the names are not important.
Yeah, I don't remember most of the names, but he's forever from this point on, he is just the stranger. So he asks this little boy who opens the door, "Hey, does so and so live here?" And he's like, "No," and it's obvious that it's not good news, and so he's just like, "Well, do you know where she is now?" And he just nods solemnly, and then we smash cut to a cemetery.
Yeah.
And from this point on, I want to warn that there's going to be major spoilers, because it's hard to talk about the plot of this movie without spoiling the first surprise of it.
And unfortunately, it's also kind of the selling point of the movie.
Yeah. Capsule review. We both like it. It's a great debut. It's not perfect. It's kind of held back a little bit by the fact that Guillermo is a Chilean filmmaker, and he shot this in Chile with a whole bunch of English as a second language Chileans.
Yeah, these are mainly Chilean actors.
And as a result, their performances are fine until they open their mouths, and you can tell that English is not their first language.
Yeah, you can tell some of them are dubbed over, even though the movie is in English.
Yeah. At times it feels like a dubbed film, even though that it's matching their lips. Because obviously, like, accents were too strong or whatever. So that part holds it back a bit, but despite that, it's still enjoyable and still worth it. And now we get to the spoilers. Alrighty then.
Spoiler is, this is essentially a vampire western set in the modern day.
Yes. Turns out guy's got some sort of blood disease that causes him to feed on other blood, as well as burn in sunlight. And I guess he's a little bit stronger. Not too much.
He doesn't have like ultra super strength, but he is definitely stronger than the average person.
Yeah.
Like he can break metal bars, but he can't necessarily pick up a car and throw it.
Yeah, and over the course of this movie, like if enough guys gang up on him, he can be taken down pretty simply.
Yeah.
Just like a couple knocks to the head or whatever. So he's not invincible, but he doesn't die easily.
Yeah, you could shoot the guy and he won't die.
Exactly. And apparently, based on what happens in the movie, if his blood will infect you if you get touched by it.
Yeah.
But if he blesses the blood beforehand, which is the only real supernatural part of it, because up until that point they kind of treat it like a disease. But if he blesses the blood beforehand, it will heal you.
Yes.
Which is an interesting nugget of supernatural amidst all this like pseudoscience.
Yeah, but he has to do it before you touch it, and he has to complete the ritual.
He has to. If he doesn't, because there's a point where he doesn't, someone turns. And so basically, he finds out his wife died, and the backstory is his wife essentially left him because he was going to commit suicide and take her with him because there were these monsters. But she didn't want to die because she has a kid.
Yeah.
And she wants to give the kid a chance to live, so she takes off, and so he's been tracking her down for years, it looks like. And finally tracked her down and found out she's dead. And in a fit of mourning, ends up getting attacked by these street thugs. He gets attacked by them, and this sets off a chain of violence within this small community because the one of the head thugs is the son of the head officer.
Yeah, he's like the head of the police lieutenant.
Yeah, I don't know the exact position he was in. It didn't seem like chief, but it was definitely
the chief. They established that the chief is off on vacation.
Yes, that's right. So he's basically in charge while the chief is gone.
Yeah, so he's like the sheriff,
but he's still a uniformed officer. He still wears the uniform a lot throughout the movie.
Yeah, he's more than a beat cop, you know.
But it's a small town, so it's not a big precinct, and it's not a sheriff. It's obviously blue.
yeah, he's so
sheriffs usually wear green. Normal city cops wear blue. There you go.
Yeah, so he's covering up the murder of the stranger
who's not actually
dead. Covers that up, and then the kid
who we met earlier
finds the stranger, realizes he's still alive, takes him back to his house.
Yeah, takes him back to his house, to his mom, where his mom's a nurse, and tries to patch him back up, but he's like, no, don't, just let me die or I'll kill you, and don't touch my blood. Don't, whatever you do, don't touch my blood. Meanwhile, police officer guy realizes that the body disappeared. That the body that they were going to bury the next day is gone. And they're like, and he finds spray cans because the kid that the guy meets earlier, it's established that he goes around tagging stuff. And
he's a graffiti artist.
He's a graffiti artist and an actual pencilist. Because they show him drawing this really awesome detailed drawing of a tiger.
Yeah.
It was really fucking cool. And he goes back to his son. He's just like, do you know that kid who sprays things or whatever? Because that apparently he found the body. He knows we got to do something. And so this leads to the kid and the police officer's kid, the thug guy, and his gang of thugs going and essentially threatening to burn down the kid and his mom's house if they don't let the kid out.
With them inside.
Because they're assuming the stranger's dead and that the kid knows. So they want the kid so they can kill the kid and whatever. And naturally, the stranger wakes up from his slumber and basically burns the leader of the thugs alive.
Yeah.
The Molotov cocktail who's threatened to burn down the house, he throws it on him after they hospitalize the kid.
Yep.
And as the story goes on, we find out that the kid is not actually the nurse's son.
Yeah.
That the kid is actually the son of, guess who? The wife.
Yeah.
So it's his kid, who has apparently not been infected by the disease yet. He's not immune though. He still can't touch the blood. The police chief retaliates by burning the kid alive.
Yeah.
And this is how we learn that he can heal with his blood, because he covers him in his blood and does this incantation, and then he wakes up completely healed. But the police chief is just like, I just hospitalized this guy. Why the fuck? How did he just walk out of the hospital? So he tracks down the kid. It's just like, what did you do? Because his kid's now in the burn ward.
Yeah.
And he wants his kid. He wants him to find out what the other kid did so that the stranger can save his kid. But they don't let him complete the ritual and knock him out before he can. So the thug kid becomes a vampire.
Yep.
And one of the things that's never outright stated, but is implicitly implied over the course of the story, is that obviously what the stranger has been doing when he's not looking for his wife, is that he hunts down other vampires and takes them out.
Yeah.
He obviously a very religious man and does not believes them to be a blight on humanity.
Yeah, he does not
and
think
this is
kindly
never
of his state.
This is never outright said. It is just implied by the things he says. There's a lot of subtext in the dialogue.
Yeah, much like, Pale Rider.
Yes.
Pale Rider himself doesn't explain
He's a man of few words. He's a man with no name just strolling into town. But he's a vampire. And he ends up befriending the kid. It's like a lone wolf and cub kind of situation.
Yeah.
Who it turns out to be his kid. And this all leads into essentially a culmination of these two sides colliding, and people die, people get slaughtered.
Yeah, there's a lot of death in this movie.
And then we get to the ending.
Yep.
The ending, which I'm not going to completely spoil because it doesn't go where you think it's going to go. Well, actually, maybe we should spoil it because I did kind of want it to go a certain way and it doesn't.
Yeah. Okay, so the big thing that happens at the end, so double spoiler.
Yeah.
The thing that happens at the end is that at the end, the stranger essentially reconciles with his son, but requests to be left in the sunlight to die.
Yeah.
But the son, at this point,
has been
infected, so he is turning into a vampire.
And he used his powers to save his dad from the thug who was about to defeat him. And he puts on what is it called? A fireman's outfit.
The whole, like, with the mask and everything.
So that he can walk in the sunlight with the fireman thing, like, blocking the sun. And he grabs the thug and pulls him out into the sunlight and then holds him while he burns alive, which is an awesome fucking scene. But then his dad just basically requests to let him die, like open the blinds, let him burn. And on one hand, I get it. It is like in with this character, but I kind of really wanted it to end with them driving off into the sunset like Lone Wolf and Cub or something.
Yeah, I really did too.
I wanted the son to make him come around and be like, no, you don't have to die, you can still live. So it has a little bit of a bleaker ending than I was kind of hoping for, which is, it's already a bleak movie.
Yeah. One of the things that the father says is that, I hope you have the strength of your mother, because you might be okay if you do. And there's this scene where the kid is first turning into a vampire where a woman gets out of a car to help him. And there's the woman trying to help him. There's a dog in the car, and the kid's looking at both of them, obviously making a decision.
Yeah, I don't think they ever specify which one
They did, actually.
Oh, they did?
It's the very last scene.
Oh,
the very last shot.
Right.
He is driving this car around, and he throws out the body of the dog.
Yeah.
Meaning he chose to take the dog rather than the human.
And the funny thing about the strength of the mother thing is that means a lot to the son, but it's not entirely true because the mother still commits suicide.
Yeah.
They show after he gives birth to the son and finds out the son's not infected, she immediately just lets the son come up and take
just
her.
Kill her. Yeah, and they just deteriorate in the sunlight.
Yeah.
Like corpses.
It's a really cool vampire story. Like the movie, it's odd. It reminds me mostly of westerns, obviously.
Yeah.
But the only other vampire movie it reminded me a little bit of is Near Dark.
Yeah, it did.
In terms of tone and the way it's shot, it felt a little bit like Near Dark.
Yeah, this is actually like kind of part of a unofficial trilogy of slow-paced vampire movies that have come out.
Oh, that's
lately.
right. That's right.
Yeah, we've got Only Lovers Left Alive, and they all have different solutions to the problem. Only Lovers Left Alive, the solution is, well, we'll just be monsters.
Yeah. We'll be monsters in love. It's a love story. You're not expecting it to be a love story walking into that.
Yeah, but it is, even though it says Only Lovers Left Alive.
Yeah, exactly. And you didn't really. It's James Jarmusch, so you're not sure if that title's going to be metaphorical or straight up literal and metaphorical. And it was both.
That one's both. Then we've got A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
Yes.
Which is also a bit of a love story, which has the, well, I accept the fact that you're a monster narrative.
And that movie's very interesting. It's an Iranian filmmaker making a film set in Iran.
But it's shot in Southern California.
Shot in Southern California, but with Iranian American actors. So it's one of those movies where, like, is it an American film? Is it an Iranian film? I don't fucking know, but it's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. These aren't really exciting movies. I would say The Stranger is the most exciting of the
Yeah.
three.
It's the most actiony.
Yeah.
The other two are very much like slower paced. Drama's not the right word.
Yeah, they're definitely like art films.
Art film's the best way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, and this one definitely has like the art film touch, but it's not. It's a much easier, simpler narrative.
Yes.
You know, I heard people calling A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night as like a vampire western, but The Stranger is way more fitting of that description.
I would
way
agree.
more. Because like even watching Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, I was like, this doesn't. I get what you mean because it's got that kind of pacing, but that's not really what the movie is.
It's got the kind of pacing and set, and because it's supposed to be set in Iran, it's kind of got that desolate desert kind of feeling, even though it's in a town.
Yeah.
But it's not really a Western.
No, it isn't.
Like narratively or the way that story progresses, it's not.
Yeah, it's much more. It's much more about. It has much more ennui than a Western does.
It's kind of a coming of age story, really.
Yeah.
Like the main character boy, it you know what it reminds me more of? It reminds me more of Let the Right One In, set in Iran.
Yeah. Actually, it's a perfect way of putting it. Yeah.
It reminds me more of that, but they're a little bit older than like preteens. They're like straight up like teenagers, like 16, 17.
Yeah.
Well, the vampire could be however old, but she looks like
right,
she's
right.
16,
But she's obviously supposed to be like 18, 19,
Yeah.
you know. And the thing that I did like about that movie is they did. You could tell it's basically 80s culture has kind of been filtering in, 80s American culture has kind of been filtering into Iran, and so it's begun to affect them artistically, and this is kind of a love letter to the way 80s American culture is affecting Iran now.
Yeah.
Which is, I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus the fact, I really like that quality of the vampire girl, how she's really into American new wave music.
Yeah.
But this is a vlog about the stranger.
Wow. Everything about, the only thing that like might hold this movie back for you really is the dubbing and the English as second language of most of the actors.
Like, I don't know if many of you out there have seen movies like Sukiyaki Western Django, where it's a whole bunch of people who don't speak English as their first language doing all the dialogue in English, and it's a little stiff, it's a little off-putting. It's not as bad as that movie.
Yeah.
If that's what you're worried about.
Sukiyaki Western Django is intentionally bad.
Yeah. That one was intentionally supposed to be goofy and stupid.
Yeah, even Quentin Tarantino is like trying to talk the way like an overdubbed dude in
he's
a
doing
Kung Fu
like
movie
he's
would be.
doing like a really super offensive like chinky accent.
Yeah, he is. It's kind of amazing.
But it's part of the tone of the movie, and it fits with everyone else. It's very interesting. But The Stranger's not that bad. They just feel like stiff actors when they open their mouths, but they don't look like stiff actors, which is the weird dissonance that ends up happening.
Yeah. The dialogue sounds a little stiff, but like obviously the actors are not.
Yeah. When the actors aren't talking and you're just looking at their faces, you can feel the emotions that are happening.
Which is good that it's a movie that doesn't rely a lot on dialogue.
Yeah, because it's done like an old Western where like the dialogue is very, very short and very to the point. Very, very, very few people going on and on and on. It's a whole lot of subtext too. I like that.
Yeah, like, that also worked in Girl Walks Home Alone at Night.
Yes,
because that one's even less dialogue.
That one, like, I think it. Oh man. Like, it takes a while for even the girl to speak.
Yeah, like there might only be like 10 pages of dialogue in that whole movie, you know?
Yeah. So, yeah, there was something you said that last night when we watched it that you wanted to save until now. Have you already mentioned it? Or?
Yeah, it was the part about the dog.
Oh, yeah.
The dog being like, all right, I killed an animal and not a human being. The kind of symbol that like, yeah, the kid is actually going to be okay, even though his dad was worried he might not be.
I think the truth of the ending is that he, even though the dad says if you have the strength of your mom, I think the truth is he has both his dad and mom's strength.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like the whole movie really is about fathers and sons.
Yes.
Like the two rival forces are a father and son team.
Yep, absolutely.
You know, father and son, the cop and the thug on one end, and the main character and the stranger on the other.
Absolutely. And even in the end, like killing the dog is still more of a dad move than the mom move. Because when we're first introduced to the mom, like she slipped and killed someone. Whereas the dad, every time we see the dad is going out of his way to kill animals instead of people.
Yeah.
Like he kills their cat instead of them when he gets hungry and he's stuck in their house. It's tragic because you don't want to see the cat to die or whatever, but you can see the calculations in his mind.
Yeah.
You know?
And of course, like, they once again, they don't state it, but it's very heavily implied that the thing that makes a vampire strong is drinking the blood.
Yes.
You know, like
it gives them like a euphoria. It's almost like like when someone like with someone on like crystal and they're like they can't feel anything.
Like someone like they actually like the main teenage character is a meth user.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably why I thought of it.
Yeah. And I really liked the whole analogy there, which is like being addicted to a drug, being addicted to blood. Like all three of the movies I mentioned made that analogy, which is very apt.
Well, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, and the one problem I had is why it happens. From a narrative standpoint, it kind of had to go this way. But there is a point near the end where the guy has been so non-violence, and now he's going up against a vampire who does not care.
Yeah.
He will he'll just kill a little girl just to get blood, just to be stronger.
Yeah.
You know, so it came down to like, well, is this vampire who refuses to feed going to be able to defeat him if this is the setup? The answer is no, of course not. Like, the guy's more powerful than he is. Mm-hmm. You know, the problem that it creates is that there's a point at which the stranger kind of becomes a bit of a pussy.
Yeah, I can see that. Like specifically the point where the son basically has to come in.
Yeah, when the son comes in, like, he comes in like a boss.
Yeah. Well, I love that scene where he just breaks through that, like goes through that like weird curtain door thing.
Yeah.
In the fireman outfit, and just grabs him, drags him out into the sun, and you get that nice wide shot of him holding him there as the fucking sun and smoke is building. And he's like really disintegrating. Good. And then as he walks off, and the pile of ash gets smaller and smaller because it's just disintegrating into nothing.
Yeah, it's a moment you expect like a tumbleweed to go by. Mm-hmm. It's like this guy's just dead.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the movie, it was a very efficient filmmaking on all levels. You know, like, the story is good and tight. It's only about an hour and 35 minutes, but it feels like a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
You know, as far as like everything
that's
happening.
That's not a dig on the movie.
It doesn't drag. I don't mean it drags. I mean, so much shit happens, and at the same time, you're never exhausted. You always know what's going on, and you're completely invested in the film.
Absolutely.
It's really incredible that way. And fuck, where was I going with that? Well paced. Oh, the efficiency of the movie. Yeah. People don't say things unless it's important.
Yep.
Which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
The movie doesn't get explainy. It shows, it doesn't tell.
Yep.
Even the dialogue between characters, if you can get away with having a character not answer a question in the scene, they do it.
Yep. And there's a good example of the showing not telling when he covers his son, who's just been burned by the police guy, who's just he took a spray can and a lighter and just torturing him,
just torturing him
where the stranger is. Because at this point he knows the stranger's alive and he wants to know where he's at, and the son won't give him.
So he's willing to burn the teenage
so
kid
the stranger
alive.
comes across the body of the kid, takes him back to his place, and then immediately starts through a bullet hole in his body, starts pouring the blood into this little basin and then covering it on the kid and saying this incantation. He never outright explains while he's doing it what he's doing, but you know based on the context what he has to be doing.
Yeah,
you know, either he's turning him or he's healing him, and the answer of healing him comes when you realize later, when he wakes up and he's fine and it's sunlight, that he wasn't turned. And so he doesn't outright explain it until even later in the movie, but at that point, you know, okay, he has to say those words.
Yeah.
You know, there's no scene of like people standing around a table going like, all right, how does this healing thing work or whatever? Like,
yeah, they just
They just show how it works. And I appreciate that because we live in a very explainy age.
Yeah, well, we're kind of used to, like, we're really used to, like, the way Marvel movies have to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those, like, how do you put out these movies on a regular basis and show, not tell? And this is where the classic comic format actually helps them, because in a comic story, you always have that one panel where a character who's been in the story the entire time re-explains their powers in, like, one sentence.
Yeah.
You know, but I am Storm, mistress of the elements, I control lightning. And you're like, how many times this story is she gonna say that? Until you realize, oh, well, the reason they did that is because it's been 30 days. Every comic might be someone's first comic, so we gotta explain it again.
The Stan Lee method.
Yeah, and so that's why the Marvel movies work, even though they don't show most of the time.
Well, they're also like, Marvel movies are supposed to be a little non-challenging. You know, you're supposed to just go watch them, enjoy yourself, and go afterwards. You're not gonna be thinking too hard about it afterwards. You know, whereas a movie like this is like pure cinema. It is. While you're watching it, you have to be engaged in it while you're doing it. Otherwise, you're gonna miss a whole lot.
Yeah, you're not gonna get it.
And it's not to say it doesn't give you all the information. It gives you all of it.
I've seen tons of movies that just don't tell you shit.
Yeah. This movie gives you all the information. It's just showing it to you, and you have to be able to look at it and pick the pieces together and put it together in your own mind. Like, oh, okay, like the incantation is required for him to heal someone. If he doesn't do that, then they're gonna turn.
Yeah.
You know, and eventually later on in the movie, just to clarify it one last time, he says that in like one sentence.
Yeah.
You know, as a warning.
If I don't bless it, you'll be infected.
But what I loved about that moment is that by the time he had said it, I realized I had already made that calculation that that's how it works when we got there. So he almost didn't need to. So that was just for anyone who was not on board at that point.
Yeah.
You know?
Just in case.
Just in case.
You know, just so we reestablish what the stakes are, you know. And it was really good that way. It's the exact opposite of a movie that fucking The Strange Color of Your Body's Tears, which didn't explain shit. And you're just sort of like, look, movie, you have to tell me what is literally going on for me to care.
Just full disclosure there, we like did not get past like the first 20 minutes of that movie. So it might explain itself, but we were so annoyed in the first like 20 minutes, we might go back and rewatch that movie, but sorry for fans of that movie.
Yeah. If you're a fan of that movie, dude, you cannot tell me the first 20 minutes of that movie are good. It's terrible. Because
you're sitting there going like, I feel like I know exactly what's happening as it's happening, but I still feel like I'm sitting there questioning, wait, is that happening? Like it's
you find yourself questioning what is before your eyes.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would say, well, that's the point of the movie. And I'm like, no, I don't mean the narrative is like that. The movie is like that. Like, you're like, what am I watching and why do I care?
Yeah, it's like not letting you in at all.
It didn't even let you in on the fact that it's an anthology film.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like I got that after so the framing device of that is that guy's wife is missing and he's going from apartment to apartment trying to find her, and in each apartment there's a story.
Oh man, we only got to like the first story, so that explains why.
I got to the beginning of the second story, but like the problem was, I was like, by the time I realized that that's what was going on, I was irritated because it's not. The way that movie is edited, it's not clear that that's what's happening. It's sort of like, my wife is missing.
Yeah, that movie feels
You're like, were you gonna tell us that?
That movie feels less like someone editing a movie to tell a story and more like editing to show off. Like, how obtuse can I make something that's very straightforward?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like, all the beautiful scenery, all the beautiful everything in that movie, wasted. Completely wasted.
Because it's a gorgeous looking movie.
Oh, yeah, beautiful. But like, the cinematographer is great, but like, that editing.
Because it's the way it's editing. I'm like, okay, we have this simple conversation between these two characters, and now I'm questioning whether or not they're even talking to one another.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like, was he talking to her
and then you get
ever? It's like, are they talking now? Am I supposed to believe this is happening?
And then you get to the next scene. I'm like, okay, so I guess they were talking to each other, obviously, because this next scene is a continuation of the next scene. But now I'm still questioning whether or not what's happening here is what's happening. And it just...
Yeah, you're so busy trying to put together the movie according to the scenes you just watched, that you cannot get invested in the present.
Yeah. It's to the point where I'm not invested at all. I'm just completely like, okay, what the fuck?
And which really pissed me off because I was like, wait, horror movie, thriller, Giallo style film set in in the Muka Hotel? That sounds amazing.
Like fucking Jodorowsky films are less confusing.
Oh yeah. Jodorowsky films are actually very straightforward as long as you understand what is happening.
Absolutely. I understand those way better than Anyway, we got
sidetracked.
So the Strange Color of Their Body's Tears, if you like that, more power to you. Wasn't a fan. Okay.
No. But The Stranger, everything about that movie, obviously with the exception of the boys.
Yes.
Worked really well. I was really, really, really impressed. I really want to see whatever Guillermo Amoedo does next. And
absolutely. I'm really looking forward, given the how tight the script was for this. For the movies he wrote with Eli Roth.
Which we'll be able to see later this year.
Absolutely.
We'll all be able to see the Green Inferno finally.
That the Green Inferno was co-written by a Chilean guy. Like that actually, like that.
Yeah, like how cool is that? Fucking like Amazon Cannibal movie written by a South American dude. Yeah.
One of the things that The Stranger does that I really like and really makes me look forward to anything he does is that one of the signs for me of like a really like a movie that's going to be at least good, not necessarily great, but will be at least good, is when a movie goes out of its way to actually set a mood and a tone and an atmosphere.
And this one does it immediately.
This one does it immediately. Like a lot of movies don't even bother with that. Bad movies rarely do. And I really like that. Like
even good bad movies do that.
Yeah.
Like Zombievers did that.
Yeah. Zombievers set up a tone and atmosphere right away. Like even just by like shots of the woods and things like that. Like this movie, when it opens up with shots of the town just to set the mood of the environment because the environment's important to the story too.
Yeah.
Like a Western. Anyway, The Stranger, I give it 2 thumbs up.
Yeah, thumbs up, absolutely.
If you watched it, comment below and let us know what you think.
Yeah, like and subscribe, do all that cool shit, and watch The Stranger. It's out on VOD right now, and you should absolutely check it out, and we'll talk to you later.